Mom, why are the cards declined? My son's voice was shaking with panic. He was at a fancy restaurant with his wife and her mom, and they couldn't pay. Oh, sweetie. He had no idea what I heard last night. He didn't know that when his wife called me their walking ATM in my own living room. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'd love to hear where you're listening from. Share your city below. Let's begin this journey together. My name is Nicole. I'm 68 years old, and up until yesterday, I was the personal ATM for my son, Anthony, and his wife, Chantel. Yesterday morning, Anthony called me. His voice was thin, shaking with a panic I hadn't heard since he was a teenager and wrecked his first car. Mom, why are all the cards declined? We're at lunch with Chantel's mother, and we can't pay. People are looking at us. Oh, child, that raw desperation in his voice. It was like music. It was the sound of justice, long overdue. Let me take you back to the night before. Just the night before. I was in my own living room, the one my late husband James and I built this house around. I was serving coffee. My coffee. To Chantel and two of her girlfriends. Anthony was right there, scrolling on his phone, but listening. Always listening when money was involved. Chantel, who never uses her inside voice, turned to her friends. She gestured toward me holding the coffee pot, and she said, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, "That old fool is only good for paying our bills. She's basically just a walking ATM." And my son, my boy, the one I raised, the one I sacrificed everything for. He didn't defend me. He didn't tell her to stop. He laughed. It wasn't a little chuckle. It was a full, deep laugh, like she had just told the funniest joke in the world. I just stood there. The coffee pot was heavy in my hand. I could feel my fingers trembling, but it wasn't from sadness. It wasn't from weakness. It was a cold, pure rage, starting in my chest and spreading out to my fingertips. It felt like ice water flooding my veins. In that single, awful second, everything became clear. I wasn't a mother to him. I wasn't a mother-in-law. I was a resource, a line of credit, a bank account on legs. They were laughing at me. In my home. A home they only visited when they needed something. They sat on my furniture, drinking my coffee, and mocked the very person who paid for the clothes on their backs. But they didn't know something. They didn't know that with that one laugh, they had just signed their own financial death warrant. They didn't know the bank was officially and permanently closed. For 10 years. 10 long years. I was their safety net, their emergency fund, their get-out-of-jail-free card. It started small. "Mom, can you spot me $50 for gas? I'll pay you back Friday." Friday never came. Then Anthony lost his job. Again. He's a good talker, my son, but he doesn't like the work. Part of working. They were going to be evicted. So I paid their rent. $1,200 a month for 8 straight months. That was $9,600. Gone. Right out of the retirement savings James and I had worked so hard to build. "Just until I get back on my feet, Mom," he'd say. His feet never seemed to find the ground. Then came Chantel. Oh, bless her heart. Chantel believes she was born for a life of luxury, but she just didn't have the bank account to match until she met my son, and, by extension, my bank account. The first big one was the professional wardrobe. She got some little entry-level office job and decided she needed to look the part. She didn't mean a few nice blouses from the department store. She meant designer labels, $3,500 on my credit card. "It's an investment in our future, Nicole," she'd said, not even looking me in the eye, just admiring herself in the mirror. And the vacations? Lord, the vacations. They were always so stressed. Stressed from what? Stressed from spending my money? 2 years ago, it was Jamaica. "Mom, we're just so burned out. We need a romantic getaway, just the two of us. You understand, right?" $6,000 evaporated from my savings account. $6,000. For them to relax on a beach. Me? They never invited me. Not once. Not even for a simple dinner that they paid for. When I hinted that I'd love to see the ocean again, Anthony just patted my hand. "Oh, Mom, it's a romantic trip. It would be weird. You get it." And I, like the biggest fool in all of Georgia, I always got it. I always understood. I always paid. The final straw, well, I thought it was the final straw at the time, was 3 months ago, the new car. Their old one was perfectly fine, but Chantel saw her friend get a new white SUV, so she needed one too. She sat on my sofa, that fake sweet voice dripping like honey. "Nicole, we need something safe, just in case we decide to start thinking about, grandchildren." That was the magic word, grandchildren. The one thing I wanted more than anything. She knew it. She aimed that missile right at my heart. "We just need help with the down payment, Nicole. $20,000. $20,000. That was 2 full years of my extra savings. The money I'd put aside from my pension just in case I had an emergency, just in case the roof started leaking or my old car broke down. I paid it. I walked into the bank, pulled out a cashier's check, and handed it to them. I thought that proved my love. I thought that finally they would see what I've done for them. And how did they repay me? By sitting in my living room, laughing, calling me an old fool, an ATM. But after last night's laugh, that little click I felt inside me. It wasn't a snap. It was a lock engaging. Something broke, yes, but something else, something hard and cold and strong, settled right into its place. I didn't sleep last night. Not 1 minute. But I wasn't lying in bed crying. I wasn't wringing my hands, wondering why. Oh no. The time for why was over. I was lying in bed feeling a clarity so sharp it burned. It was like I'd been walking around in a fog for a decade, and that laugh was a gust of wind that blew it all away. I saw everything, every lie, every transaction, every bit of manipulation. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I didn't turn on the big lights. I just went to my little office, the one with the old desktop computer, and turned it on. The house was silent, just the hum of the machine, and I got to work. First, I logged into my main credit card account, the one I'd had for 30 years, the one with the high limit. I looked at the authorized users, Anthony, Chantel, and 3 other cards I'd given them for emergencies, 5 extra cards, all linked to my name, my credit, my money. I clicked Report Card Lost Stolen on the first one, then the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. With every click, I felt a little lighter. Click, canceled, click, deactivated, click, gone. Second, I went to my main bank. I had this joint savings account. That's what Anthony called it. It was our emergency fund, except I was the only one who ever put money in. I transferred $500 into it every single month, just in case. Their just in case usually meant a long weekend at a golf resort or front row tickets to a concert. There was $7,000 in it. I transferred every single cent into my private checking account, an account they didn't even know existed. Then I clicked Close Account. "Are you sure?" the screen asked. I smiled. "Oh yes, I am sure." Third, passwords. I changed every single one. My checking, my savings, my credit cards, my retirement portal, everything. I made them long and complicated, full of letters and numbers and symbols they would never, ever guess. No more James 1960 or Anthony is my joy. My new passwords were, well, that's my business. I went into my bill pay settings. I deleted the automatic transfer for their car insurance. I deleted the payment for their cell phone plan, the family plan where I was the only family member paying. I deleted the streaming services, Hulu, Netflix, that expensive sports package for Anthony, the DoorDash subscription that was feeding them almost every night. Click, click, click. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I was done. The sun was just starting to peek through the blinds. I walked to my kitchen. I made myself a pot of fresh, strong coffee. The good stuff, not the cheap brand I'd been buying to save money. I poured a cup, sat down in my favorite armchair by the window, and took a sip. For the first time in 10 years, I felt peace. A deep, quiet, powerful peace. I knew the phone would ring. I knew the storm was coming. And child, I was ready. The phone started ringing at exactly 9:15 a.m. right on time. I was just enjoying my second cup of coffee, watching the blue jays at my bird feeder. I picked up the phone and looked at the screen. Anthony. I let it ring. Once. Twice. A third time. I just wanted to enjoy the silence for a moment longer. Just savor it. On the fourth ring, I answered. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Mom, what is going on? Why are all the cards declined? He wasn't just talking. He was squealing. It was that high-pitched sound of pure, entitled panic. I'm here, at the savory table, with Chantel's mom. We can't pay the bill. It's humiliating, Mom. People are staring at us. Oh, the irony. The sweet, beautiful irony. The savory table. The most expensive brunch spot in the entire city. The kind of place where a plate of eggs costs $40. They had chosen the fanciest restaurant they could think of to impress his mother-in-law, Brenda. All on my dime, of course. I could just picture the bill. $200, maybe $250. And they didn't have a penny of their own cash to cover it. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Good morning, son, I said. My voice was calm, clear as a bell. Don't good morning me. What's wrong with the cards? Did you forget to pay the bill? Fix it, now. The cards aren't broken, Anthony, I said, still calm. The cards are canceled. I canceled them. There was a silence on the other end. Not a long one, just a beat. The sound of his brain trying to process information it couldn't understand. What? What do you mean, you canceled them? Why would you do that? We're in public. Brenda is here. What am I supposed to do? You know, Anthony. What was really humiliating, I said, and my voice was still soft, but it was hard as steel underneath, was hearing my own son laugh last night. Laugh while his wife called me an old fool who was only good for paying bills. The silence this time was longer, heavier. Mom, that was just a joke. Chantel was just kidding around. My God, can't you take a joke? No, not anymore. 10 years I've been the joke. 10 years I've been your personal bank. But the bank is closed, Anthony. The ATM is out of order, permanently. I heard him breathing hard into the phone. I could hear Chantel in the background, her voice rising. What is it? What's she doing? Mom, please, he begged. His voice dropped to a desperate whisper. Not now, please, just turn them back on, just for today. I'll pay you back. Pay me back. That was the funniest joke I'd heard all day. No, Anthony, I said. No more, just for today. No more, I'll pay you back. You are a 35-year-old grown man. Your wife is sitting right next to you. You two are at an expensive restaurant. You will have to figure out how to pay your own bill. Mom, don't do this to me. I pressed the end call button. I sat back in my chair. The coffee was still warm. The birds were still singing. And my house was finally, wonderfully, quiet. My phone blew up for the next 30 minutes. I didn't even look at the screen. I just watched it vibrate itself across the kitchen counter. Buzz, buzz, buzz. First Anthony, then Chantel. Then a new number, which I guessed was his angry mother-in-law, Brenda. I rejected every single call. I just pressed the decline button, one after another. Decline, decline, decline. I knew they weren't done. They were humiliated. And when entitled people are humiliated, they don't feel shame. They feel rage. At 11 o'clock a.m., right on the dot, I heard it. The squeal of tires. I looked out the kitchen window past the sink. There it was, the big white luxury SUV I'd put the $20,000 down payment on. It was parked halfway on my lawn, the engine still running. The car doors slammed. Bang, bang, like they were punctuation marks on their anger. And then the banging started on my front door. It wasn't a knock, it was a pounding. Boom, 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 like the police were here for a raid. Mom, open this door, we know you're in there. That was Anthony. His voice was no longer panicky. It was rough, angry, demanding. "Stop this! You're acting like a child, Mom! Open the door!" Me, I was acting like a child? That's rich. I walked away from the front of the house. I went to the kitchen, made myself a tall glass of iced tea, and walked out onto my back patio. It was a beautiful day. The sun was warm. I sat down in my cushioned chair, the one James and I used to sit in together, and I watched the hummingbirds at my feeder. The pounding at the front door was just a dull thump, thump, thump from back here. It didn't bother me at all. Then Chantel started. Her voice was higher, a sharp shriek that cut right through the wood. "Nicole, you open this door right now. You made us look like beggars. My mother had to pay. My 70-year-old mother had to pay our bill." Oh, now isn't that a tragedy? Brenda had to use her own money. The horror. What a terrible, terrible humiliation. I took a slow sip of my tea. Delicious. They started kicking the door. Thud, thud. That made me mad. That was my front door. It was solid mahogany. My James, he installed that door himself 20 years ago. He'd spent a whole weekend making sure it was perfect, and they were kicking it with their expensive, ungrateful shoes. "People in the restaurant were filming us, Mom," Anthony yelled, his voice cracking. "This is going to be all over social media. You've ruined us." And there it was. That's all it was about. Not the 10 years of bleeding me dry, not the disrespect, not the laughter. It was their image, their reputation, what other people thought of them. They weren't angry that they had been cruel. They were angry that they got caught. They were angry that the ATM was empty, and it made them look bad. I sat there, perfectly still, and just listened to them, rage. After a few minutes, the kicking and pounding stopped. I heard them whispering on the porch, angry, hissing sounds. They were regrouping, changing tactics. And then Chantel's voice came again, but it was different. The screech was gone. Now it was all sticky sweet like molasses, the voice she used when she wanted something big. "Nicole, sweetie." I almost laughed out loud. "Sweetie?" "Honey, I know you're upset," she cooed at the door. I was just joking last night. You know how us girls get, we just talk. We gossip. I didn't mean anything by it. You know we love you." "You know we love you." They loved what I could do for them. "Mom," Anthony chimed in, picking up her cue. "She's right. We're sorry, okay? We'll make it up to you. We'll take you to dinner." Take me to dinner. On my credit card, I'm sure. "But Mom, listen, I really need you to turn the cards back on, just for a little while. My car insurance payment is due tomorrow, $300. If I don't pay it, they'll cancel the policy. I won't be able to drive. I'll lose my job, Mom. Is that what you want?" Oh, the guilt trip. Here it comes. My fault he'll lose his job, not his fault for spending his entire paycheck on whatever it is he buys. And then my son, my college-educated son, delivered the masterpiece. "You know what this is, Mom? This is emotional manipulation. You're manipulating us." I was manipulating them. I stood up from my patio chair. I walked through the house, right to the front window next to the door. I put my hand on the curtain. I took a deep breath, and I pulled it back. They were both standing there on the porch, red-faced and sweating. Chantel saw me first. Her face lit up with a bright, fake, triumphant smile. "There you are. Oh, thank goodness. Nicole, open the door. Let's just talk about this like a family." She smiled wide, showing all her teeth. I looked at her. I looked right into her cold, greedy eyes. Then I looked at my son. He wouldn't meet my gaze. He was looking down at his feet, like the coward he was. I held her stare for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then very slowly, I let the curtain fall back into place. I heard the sound she made. It wasn't a word. It was a shriek, a sound of pure animal rage. "You—" I turned around and walked back to my kitchen. I heard more shouting, more pounding, but I just tuned it out. A few minutes later, I heard the SUV's engine roar, the tires squealed on my street, and they were gone. But I knew it wasn't over. This was just phase 1. They were going to call in the support group, and sure enough, my phone rang. This time, it was Brenda. I let it go to voicemail. "Nicole, this is Brenda. I cannot believe the scene you caused today. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed your children. I had to pay a $240 bill. You call Anthony immediately and apologize." Apologize? Me? To him? The audacity. An hour later, the phone rang again. My sister, Jeanette, from 2 states away. I picked that one up. "Nicole, what in the world is going on? Anthony just called me. He's hysterical. He said you're not yourself, that you locked them out, that you've lost your mind. He's so worried about you, honey." Worried. That was the word, all right. "I'm not acting strange, Jeanette," I said, my voice perfectly even. "I just stopped paying their bills." But he said you cut him off from everything. He said he can't even pay his car insurance. Nicole, that's not right. He's your son." "Yes, he is. He's a 35-year-old man who's been living off my retirement for a decade. I'm done, Jeanette. I'm just done." But to just cut him off? With no warning? That's cruel, Nicole. He says you're having some kind of breakdown. "No, honey," I said, and I almost smiled. "I'm not having a breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. I'm fine, better than I've ever been. Now I have to go." I hung up before she could argue. That night, I unplugged the landline phone from the wall. The silence was beautiful. I put my cell phone on airplane mode. No calls, no texts, no buzzing, just quiet. I needed to think. I needed to see the truth. I went back to my little office. I pulled out the file cabinet drawer, I took out my bank statements and my credit card statements. I went back 5 years. That's as far as my paper records went. I sat down at the dining room table with a legal pad and a calculator, and I started to count. I wasn't just counting the big things like the rent or the vacations. I started looking at the little things, the things I'd let slide. The DoorDash deliveries, almost every single day. $30 here, $45 there. The gym memberships, not one, but 2. One for an expensive lifestyle club for Chantel, $180 a month. One for a specialized sports gym for Anthony, $90 a month. Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, the full sports package, their cell phone bill, all of it, month after month, year after year, charged to my card. I added up the car down payment, $20,000. I added up the rent I'd paid, $9,600. I added up the wardrobe, $3,500. The Jamaica trip, $6,000. The credit card emergencies that were really just dinners and concerts. I stopped counting the individual ones and just started adding up the monthly totals. An hour later, I had a number. I stared at it. I checked the math twice. $95,420. In 5 years, $95,000. That didn't even count the 10 years before that. The gas money, the groceries, the loans that were never repaid. I felt sick. I actually felt dizzy. That was my money, my cushion. The money James and I saved so I would be secure in my old age. Not so they could live a lifestyle neither of them was willing to work for. I got up. I went to the file cabinet again. I pulled out another folder, my will. I hadn't looked at it in 5 years. I'd had it drawn up right after James passed. I sat down and read it. It was simple. Anthony was my only child. He was the sole heir. He was the executor. He got everything. The house, the savings, the investments, everything. I looked at the number on my legal pad, $95,000. I looked at the will. "Oh, no, sweetie," I said out loud to the empty room. "No, you don't. You've already spent your half, and then some." I closed the folder. I knew exactly what I had to do. Tomorrow morning, I wasn't just going to the bank. I was calling my lawyer. I woke up this morning before the alarm, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel that heavy, tired dread in my chest. I felt light. I felt energized. I felt like me again. I turned my cell phone back on. It exploded. 14 new voicemails. 22 text messages. I listened to a few just for fun. Anthony, Mom, you closed the joint account. That was our money. What is wrong with you? Chantel, Nicole, you need to call us. Anthony didn't sleep all night. He is sick with worry about you. This isn't funny anymore. You're scaring us. Scaring them. Good. They should be scared. Scared of living within their own means. I ignored the rest. I made my coffee, and at 8:30 a.m. sharp, I called my lawyer's office. Mr. Dubois' office, this is Sheila. Good morning, Sheila. This is Nicole Jenkins. I need to make an appointment with Mr. Dubois as soon as possible. It's urgent. I need to make changes to my will. Of course, Mrs. Jenkins. Let me see. He has an opening at 2 p.m. today. Would that work? 2 p.m. is perfect, I said. Thank you. I felt a click of satisfaction. Step 1, done. Just as I hung up, my doorbell rang. A simple, polite ding-dong, not the fist of an angry gorilla. I looked through the peephole. It was my neighbor, Missy. Missy lives 2 doors down. She's 62, a widow like me, a good woman. We always wave, but we don't talk much. I opened the door. Nicole, honey, she said, her face full of genuine concern. I don't mean to be nosy, but I heard such a terrible racket over here yesterday. All that yelling, and I saw that big white SUV tear out of here like the devil was chasing it. Are you all right? I was worried. I looked at her kind face, and something in me just opened up. Missy, would you like a cup of coffee? I asked. I'd love one, she said. I invited her in. We sat at my kitchen table, and I told her everything. The 10 years, the money, the vacations, the SUV, and I told her what Chantel said. I told her how Anthony laughed. Missy just sat there, nodding. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I finished, she reached across the table and put her hand on mine. Honey, she said, and her voice was firm. I'm not surprised. I have been watching it for years. I stared at her. You have? Of course. We all have. We see them pull up in that brand new, expensive rig. We see Chantel walking around in designer clothes and carrying bags I know cost more than my mortgage payment. And we see you, Nicole. We see you shopping at the discount grocery store. We see you driving the same 15-year-old car. I have never, not once in the 5 years I've lived here, seen either of them bring you a bag of groceries. I've never seen them come over to mow your lawn or just visit. They only ever show up when they're taking, not giving. I felt tears well up in my eyes, not tears of sadness, tears of validation. I thought I was going crazy, I whispered. He called me manipulative. Child, that's what they do, Missy said, squeezing my hand. They flip the script. They make you the bad guy because you dared to turn off the faucet. You are not crazy, Nicole. You are the sanest one in this whole mess. You just woke up. Her words were like a balm on a burn I'd been carrying for a decade. After Missy left, I felt like I had armor on. I wasn't just angry, I was right. And I had a witness. My first stop was the bank. Not the drive-through, I walked right inside. I sat down with the branch manager, a nice woman named Mrs. Davis. I told her I'd had a security incident. I need to add 2-factor authentication to everything, I said, the kind where it texts my phone a code. And I want a verbal password on my account that only I know. No one, not even my son, can access my information without that word. Mrs. Davis just nodded, her lips pressed thin. You would not believe how often we see this, Mrs. Jenkins. It's a smart move. She set it all up for me. It took 20 minutes. When I left, my money was locked down tight. Not even I could get to it without my cell phone and a password that was now locked in my head. It was almost lunchtime. On the way home, I drove past a little bistro I'd always wanted to try, the kind of place Anthony and Chantel went to, but I always told myself was too expensive. I pulled over. I walked in. I sat down at a table for one, right by the window. I ordered the salmon and a glass of white wine. In the middle of the day, it cost $50, and I didn't feel one single drop of guilt. I felt satisfied. I was investing in myself. At 2:00 p.m., I was sitting in Mr. Dubois' leather-backed chair. He's a tall, serious man who's known my family for years. He'd handled James's estate. "So, Nicole," he said, steepling his fingers, "Sheila said you wanted to make some changes to your will. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. And just like I did with Missy, I told him, I didn't get emotional. I just stated the facts. The 10 years. The $95,000 I'd counted. The laughter. The scene at my front door. Mr. Dubois just listened. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he just nodded slowly. "I see," he said. "You are well within your rights, Nicole. In fact, I would say you are long overdue. What changes do you want to make?" "I want to tear up the old one," I said. "Completely. Here's the new plan." I laid it out. My estate was worth, well, it was worth a good amount. The house was paid off and James had left us with solid investments. 50%, I said, goes to the local children's charity, the one my James used to volunteer for. Mr. Dubois raised an eyebrow, impressed. 30% goes to my sister, Jeanette. She has her own money, but she's been a good sister. She was worried, even if she was worried for the wrong reasons. "And Anthony?" he asked gently. 20%, I said. 20, I understand. "Wait," I said. "There's a condition, a big one. He doesn't get that 20% in a lump sum. It goes into a trust. He can't get a single penny of it until he provides proof of one full, consecutive year of complete financial independence. No help from me, no help from Brenda, no major credit card debt. He has to submit tax returns and bank statements to you as the executor to prove it. If he can't do it, then his 20% goes to the charity too." Mr. Dubois actually smiled, a thin, professional smile. "That's an excellent provision, Nicole. Very clear, very enforceable. It's structured encouragement. I call it tough love, Mr. Dubois." "Indeed." He had his assistant draft the new pages right then. We signed them. We had 2 secretaries witness it. I walked out of that office at 3:30 p.m. with a brand new ironclad will. I got home feeling strong. The fear was gone. But my day wasn't over. When I pulled into my driveway, there was an unfamiliar car parked at the curb. A black Cadillac. A woman was standing on my porch. It was Brenda, Chantel's mother. She was dressed to the nines, silk blouse, expensive pants, big sunglasses. She looked like she was about to attend a garden party, not a confrontation. "Nicole," she said, not moving. Her voice was smooth, but there was no warmth in it. "We need to talk, woman to woman." I didn't want to let her in my house, but I also didn't want the neighbors to see a scene. I unlocked my door. "You can come in for 5 minutes, Brenda." I didn't offer her coffee. I didn't offer her a seat. I just stood in my entryway. She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were hard. "You are breaking your son's heart, Nicole," she said. I just stared at her. "He is beside himself. He's worried sick that his mother is having an episode, that she's not well." "I am perfectly well, Brenda. I'm just no longer paying for his 35-year-old life." She tried a new tactic. Shame. "What will people at church say?" She hissed. "They will see you casting out your only son. They will see me, a 70-year-old woman, having to pay for their extravagant lunch. It's a disgrace to the family." "The disgrace," I said, my voice quiet, "was my son and my daughter-in-law laughing at me in my own home. The disgrace is them treating me like a bank for a decade." Brenda's mask of concern dropped. Her face got ugly. "All right," she said, taking a step closer. "I'm going to be blunt. The children, they are worried about you, about your mental state, and they are considering getting legal help." I felt a cold chill, colder than the rage from the night before. "Legal help? What are you talking about?" I'm talking about competence, Nicole, she whispered, and the word hung in the air like poison. When an elderly person suddenly starts acting erratically, making wild financial decisions, cutting off their family, locking themselves in their house, well, there are ways. There are ways to protect a person from themselves, ways to have a court appoint someone responsible, like Anthony, to manage their affairs, to protect their assets. There it was, the final nuclear threat. They were going to try to have me declared legally incompetent. They were going to try to take everything. For the first time in 2 days, I felt real, gut-twisting fear. This wasn't about a credit card anymore. This wasn't about a restaurant bill. This was an attack. This was their endgame. They couldn't persuade me, so they were going to erase me. They were going to have a judge sign a paper that said I was crazy, and they would get control of my house, my bank accounts, my life. Brenda saw the fear in my eyes. She smiled, a small, tight, victorious smile. "You think about that, Nicole," she said. "You think very hard about whether this little tantrum is worth it. You call Anthony. You fix this." She turned, opened my front door, and walked out. I stood there, my heart hammering in my chest, long after her Cadillac pulled away. I was shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from rage. It was from fear. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and my mind was racing. They could do it. They could twist the story. They could tell a judge I was paranoid. They could use my sister's worried phone call as evidence. They could portray themselves as loving, concerned children, and me as a senile old woman who had lost her mind. My rage came back, but it was different now. It was cold. It was strategic. They wanted a war? They were going to get one. But I wasn't going to fight with fists. I was going to fight with files. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I was on the phone. I didn't call my lawyer. I called a private geriatric clinic, the kind that does independent psychiatric evaluations. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and firm. "I'd like to schedule a full mental competency exam. Yes, for myself, as soon as possible." They had a cancellation. They could see me at 11 a.m. this morning. I drove to the clinic. It was in a quiet, professional building. I sat with a doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Alani, for 3 hours. She tested everything: my memory, my logic, my reasoning. She asked me to count backward from 100 by sevens. She asked me to name the last 5 presidents. She asked me complex ethical questions, and she asked me why I was there. I told her. I told her everything, about the money, about the laughter, and I told her about Brenda's threat. Dr. Alani listened, taking notes. When I was finished, she put her pen down. "Mrs. Jenkins," she said, "you are one of the sharpest, most clear-headed individuals I have had in this office all month. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is flawless. What you are describing is not paranoia. It is a logical, rational, and frankly, healthy response to long-term financial and emotional abuse." She smiled. "Setting boundaries is not a sign of dementia, Nicole. It is a sign of profound mental health." She typed for a few minutes. The printer whirred. She handed me a 5-page, signed official report. It stated in clear medical and legal terms that I was 100% competent, of sound mind and body, and that my recent financial decisions were prudent actions of asset protection. I paid the $400 fee in cash. I walked out of that office holding my insurance policy. I drove straight to Missy's house. I knocked on her door. She opened it, and I must have looked pale because her smile faded. "Nicole, what's wrong?" We sat at her kitchen table. I told her about Brenda. I told her the word she used, incompetent. Missy's face went from concern to furious. That snake," she whispered. "They would do that? They would try to put you away just to get your money?" "That was the threat," I said. "Well, you've got your report," Missy said, tapping the folder I'd placed on the table. "That stops them right in their tracks. They file anything in court. You show the judge that paper, and they're the ones who will be in trouble for malicious prosecution." She was right. I felt the fear finally drain away, replaced by a deep, weary sense of victory. Missy looked at me. I must have looked exhausted. "You know what you need?" she said, her eyes suddenly sparkling. "You need to get out of town. You need a break from all this, from this house, this phone, this drama." "I don't know where I'd go," I murmured. "Oh, I do," she said, getting up. She went to her counter and picked up a brochure. "My sister and I were supposed to go on a 5-day Caribbean cruise. It leaves next Tuesday, but she fell and fractured her hip. She can't go. The ticket is non-refundable. I was going to go alone, but why don't you come with me? It's all paid for except for your flight to Miami." I stared at her. A cruise, the Caribbean, the ocean I'd wanted to see. "Missy, I couldn't." "Why not?" she said. "You've got $95,000 in back pay you need to start spending, honey. You deserve it. Let them pound on your door. You'll be 500 miles away drinking a piña colada." I looked at the brochure. A blue ocean, a white ship. I thought about Anthony. I thought about Chantel. I thought about Brenda. And I laughed. A real, happy laugh. "I'd have to buy a new bathing suit," I said. "Then we're going shopping tomorrow," Missy smiled. I went home. I got on my computer. I booked a last-minute one-way flight to Miami. It cost $300. Then I called Mr. Dubois. I told him about Brenda's threat. "Good God," he said. "That's aggressive. Your response with the evaluation was brilliant, Nicole. Absolutely brilliant. Fax me a copy of that report. I'll keep it on file. If they try anything, we won't just block it. We'll countersue for harassment." I felt safe. I felt free. The rest of the week was quiet. Too quiet. No pounding, no calls. My phone was silent. It was eerie. They were plotting. On Sunday morning, there was a knock, a soft, hesitant knock. I looked. It was Anthony. He was alone. He looked terrible. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were red. He wasn't wearing his usual flashy clothes, just an old t-shirt and jeans. He looked defeated. I opened the door, but I blocked the entrance with my body. "What do you want, Anthony?" "Mom, can I just talk to you? Please, not yell, just talk." I was cautious, but he was alone. "You have 5 minutes." I let him into the entryway. That's as far as I let him go. "Mom, I need $300. He mumbled, looking at the floor. I just stared at him. After everything. After the threats. He was still asking for money. "It's for the car insurance, Mom. Like I told you, it was due Friday. They canceled the policy. I'm driving dirty. If I get pulled over, I'll lose my license. I'll lose my job. Please, Mom, just this one last time." "No, Anthony. But I don't get paid for 2 more weeks. I don't have it. Where am I supposed to get $300? "I don't know, Anthony," I said, my voice flat. "You're a grown man. You have a job. You earn, what, $4,000 a month? Where is your money?" He actually waved his hands, frustrated. It's gone. Life is expensive, Mom. The rent, the car payment, and, the basics." "The basics?" "Yeah, Netflix, the gym, getting food delivered. You can't live without that stuff. That's just basic needs." Basic needs. DoorDash and a sports package. I almost laughed. It wasn't funny. It was pathetic. "No, son, those are not basic needs. Those are luxuries. Luxuries that you cannot afford. My basic needs were making sure you had food in your stomach and a roof over your head. I did that by not spending money on luxuries." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were full of tears, real tears. It was a new tactic. I thought you liked helping us," he whispered. His voice cracked. "I thought that was your way of showing you loved us, taking care of us. I I never thought you minded." There it was, the guilt, the emotional knife twisted right in my gut. "Oh, I did love helping you, Anthony," I said, and my own voice got a little thick. "For years, helping you was my greatest joy. But that's not what this was. You weren't asking for help. You were taking. You and your wife turned my love into an obligation. You turned my sacrifices into a joke. You laughed at me. That's not love, Anthony. That's exploitation. And it's over." He started to sob, a full body-racking cry. The little boy who scraped his knee. I didn't move. I didn't hug him. I just stood there. I'll figure it out," he wept. He turned and stumbled out the door. I closed it, and I had to lean against it. That was hard. That was the hardest part so far. The next day, Monday, Chantel called. "Nicole?" Her voice was small. No honey, no shrieking. Just small. I was wondering if you'd let me buy you a cup of coffee, just to apologize." I didn't want to, but I thought of Mr. Dubois. I thought of Dr. Alani. I was in control. "Fine, 1 cup, tomorrow, 10 a.m., the little cafe on Main Street. Public place." I got there first. I ordered my own coffee. She came in. She looked like Anthony. Tired. No makeup. Her hair was just pulled back. The expensive designer bag was gone, replaced by a simple cloth tote. She sat down. She wouldn't look at me. "Nicole," she said, staring into her cup, "I am so sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said. It was a horrible, ugly, awful thing to say. And I have no excuse. I was trying to be big in front of my friends. I was showing off, and it was at your expense. I am ashamed of myself." I just sipped my coffee. "And we're sorry for the money," she continued. When you cut us off, we sat down. We actually made a budget. For the first time ever." She pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her bag. We spend almost double what Anthony makes every month, and we just expected you to cover the difference. We never even thought about it. We were just living a lie, and you were paying for it." She finally looked up. Her eyes were red. "We're moving," she said. "We found a smaller apartment. It's $500 cheaper in a less nice part of town, but we can afford it. We canceled the gyms. We canceled all the streaming except one. We're cooking at home. We're selling my SUV. We can't afford the payment or the insurance." It was everything I'd ever wanted to hear. But it felt practiced. It felt like a speech. We just want to know," she said, if we can ever fix this. With you, not the money, just us." I looked at her, at this woman who had mocked me. "I don't know, Chantel," I said honestly. "If this is real, if you're really changing, then maybe. But it will be on new terms. My terms." "What are they?" she asked, desperate. "Respect," I said, "and your total, complete 100% financial independence. From me and from your mother. You live on what you earn. Both of you." She nodded, tears rolling down her face. "Yes. Okay, we can do that. We will do that." She looked so broken, so repentant. I almost believed her. That evening, the night before I was due to fly to Miami, my phone buzzed. A text message from Anthony. My finger hovered over the delete button. I was so tired, but I read it. "Mom, I got a small personal loan from the credit union to cover the insurance. It's a high interest rate, but it's mine. We signed the lease on the new apartment today. We move on the 1st of the month." It was the first time in his adult life he had ever solved a financial problem without me. He hadn't asked. He hadn't begged. He hadn't threatened. He'd handled it. I didn't reply, but I didn't feel angry. I just felt quiet. The cruise was like stepping into another life. The moment that plane took off, I felt 10 years of weight lift off my shoulders. Missy and I, we just existed. We sat on the deck in the sun. We drank colorful drinks. We ate food we didn't have to cook or clean up. We talked. Oh Lord, did we talk. On the third night, at a big round dinner table, we met two other women, one from Texas, one from Florida, both widows, both in their 60s, and child, they had the same story. The one from Texas, her daughter and son-in-law had borrowed over $100,000 to fund a business idea that never happened. The one from Florida, her son had moved back in with her for a month and stayed for 6 years, bringing his girlfriend and 2 dogs and paying not one bill. I sat there listening, and I realized I wasn't just Nicole, the fool. I was part of a club. A sad, secret club of mothers who had loved too much, who had given until it hurt, and who had been mistaken for a bank. "And what did you do?" I asked the woman from Texas. "Oh, honey," she said, sipping her wine, "I sold the house, I bought a condo in a 55-plus community, and I changed my cell phone number. My new number is unlisted. He can write me a letter if he needs me. He hasn't yet." I wasn't that hard. Not yet. But sitting there, under the stars, in the middle of the ocean, I made a promise to myself. I would never, ever let another person's laughter make me feel small. I would never, ever confuse my bank account with my heart. My heart was for loving. My bank account was for me. When I got home 5 days later, my house was blessedly quiet. The flight was good. My tan was real. I felt rested. There were 3 new voicemails on my machine. My stomach did a little flip, but I was calm. I had my competency report in my bag and a tan on my face. I was ready. I pressed play. "Hey, Mom, it's Anthony. Your flight was today, I think. Just wanted to say I hope you got home safe. Talk to you later." Beep. "Mom, me again, just checking in. Missy's car is in the driveway, so I guess you're back. Hope you had a good time." Beep. "Hi, Mom, it's Monday. We started packing. It's a lot. Anyway, just checking on you." Beep. That was it. 3 messages, no requests, no emergencies, no demands. He was just checking on me. I sat down in my armchair. It had been maybe 15 years since my son had called me just to check on me. I didn't call him back. Not yet. He came by the next evening, Monday. He knocked, a normal knock. I opened the door. He was still unshaven, but he looked clearer, less desperate. "Hi, Mom," he said. "Hello, Anthony. Can I come in for a minute?" I let him in. We stood in the kitchen. He didn't look comfortable. He looked like a visitor, which I suppose he now was. "We moved the first load," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "The new place is small. The kitchen is tiny. You'll manage," I said, not unkindly, just a fact. Yeah, I know." He took a deep breath. I just wanted to tell you, we did it. We canceled the gym memberships, both of them. We're jogging, in the park. It's free." I just nodded. "And Chantel, she got a second job." That made me look up. "A second job?" "Yeah, on weekends. She's hostessing at a restaurant, the one her friend works at. It's only 3 nights, but it's money, our money." He looked at me and his eyes were, God help me, they looked adult. For the first time, maybe ever. "Mom," he said, and his voice was low. "I am so sorry." "No, wait, I know I said that, but I'm not sorry I got caught. I'm sorry for what I did. I've been living in a fog, Mom, my whole life. I thought I deserved that stuff. The car, the vacations. I thought that's what being an adult was, having that stuff. And I didn't care how I got it. And I used you." He looked down at his own hands. "I was living a lie. And that lie depended entirely on exploiting your generosity. And when I laughed, God, Mom, That wasn't me. It was the greedy, spoiled brat you let me become." I didn't say anything. I just let him talk. "I'm 35 years old, and I'm packing boxes to move into a tiny apartment. And for the first time in my entire life, I actually feel like an adult, because I'm finally paying my own way." He paused. This was the hard part. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, ever again, but I was wondering, Chantel and I, we were wondering if maybe we could have you over for Sunday dinner at the new place, once we're in. I must have looked surprised. We'll bring the food," he said quickly. Or we can come here. We'll bring the groceries and we'll cook for you. You just sit. You don't have to lift a finger." He looked at me terrified. He was asking for a chance, not a check. And after 68 years on this earth, I finally knew the difference. A small smile found its way to my face. A real one. "I would like that very much, Anthony," I said. "I'd like that a lot." He let out a breath. He looked like he'd been holding for a week. He nodded once. Okay, good. I'll let you know." He left. He didn't ask for a hug. He didn't ask for $1. He just left. That evening, I sat on my back patio, watching the sun go down. The air was cool and clean. I thought about my will. I thought about the charity and my sister and the 20%. I picked up my phone. I called Mr. Dubois. "Nicole," he said, sounding happy to hear from me. "I trust the cruise was lovely and uneventful." "It was. Thank you, Mr. Dubois. But I need to make another small change to the will." "Oh? Are we reinstating Anthony?" "No," I said. "Not exactly. I want to keep the trust, but I want to change the terms. I want to make it tiered." "Go on," he said, interested. "If Anthony can prove 2 full consecutive years of financial independence, tax returns, bank statements, no debt, just like we said, he gets that 20%. "Okay, that's reasonable. But," I said, "if he can prove 5 consecutive years of that same independence, he gets 40%, the other 30 from the charity, and he can be the co-executor with you." Mr. Dubois was silent for a moment. "Nicole," he said, and his voice was full of respect, "that is very wise. You're not just giving him a fish. You're not even just teaching him to fish. You're giving him a long-term incentive to own the lake." "Something like that," I said. "He's still my son. But I'm not his bank. He has to earn his inheritance, not by being born, but by growing up." "I'll have the papers drafted tomorrow," he said. I hung up. I leaned my head back against the chair. I could hear Missy's television 2 doors down. I could smell someone's barbecue. It was just a normal night. It took me 68 years to learn this lesson. 68 years to realize that no is a complete sentence. 68 years to understand that my value wasn't in what I could give people, but in who I was. I sacrificed everything for my son. And in the end, the only way to save him was to save myself. I closed my eyes. I am Nicole. I am 68 years old, and I am not an ATM. I am free, and I will never forget what that freedom cost.